Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. This is another Hunter build. We're focusing on the Arc subclass today. Some of you may already know this build and may be using this regularly, but this is just my take on the build. I want to show you guys how I use this build and introduce anybody that is not familiar to this build to a new fun way to just spam abilities on Arc Hunter. This build excels in staying at full health, stacking damage resist, and just clearing entire rooms of ads with abilities. Not only can you take down ads in it with this build, if you stack this with other melee buffs, you can take down things such as large walkers from the new Star Wars activities. This build can definitely chunk large enemies. So I hope you guys enjoy this build. I'll go through a live section of me describing what's in this build real quick. Try and make this short and sweet. If you learned anything or if you appreciate this build, please leave a like, comment any thoughts, and leave a sub if you can. I really appreciate it, trying to grow my channel. Thank you all and enjoy. Hey guys, welcome to the live segment of the recording. I'm going to walk you through the build from in-game. I just find this easier so you can visually see what I'm talking about as I'm going through it. So let's start out with the subclass. This is the easy part. So first of all, we have the aspects, which are Tempest Strike and Ascension. Both of these work with Gifted Conviction. Gifted Conviction allows you to add extra grenades or explosives to track to nearby targets whenever you activate either Ascension or Tempest Strike. Not only does it jolt nearby targets, it also gives you damage resist. So for Gifted Conviction, every time you apply Jolt, you get a stack of damage resist. So at one stack of Jolt, or one Jolt application, you get 25% damage resist. 2 applications, you get 40, and at 3, you get 50% damage resist. So if you consistently apply Jolt, you'll be pretty much at max damage resist the entire time. So groups of enemies are better to hit. So in some builds, it's better to just single target enemies. In this build, you want to run into groups of enemies, because the more you apply Jolt, the more damage resist you have. So the less damage you take, the more enemies you're fighting, which is a little bit counterintuitive, but it works for this build. You just kind of run into the chaos and you just kind of spam abilities and you're just alive and everything's dead. It's great. First off, we have Gambler's Dodge. So this ability will give you your melee back whenever you dodge. It only gives melee energy back. So if you have less than 70 melee stat, you will not get your entire melee back. With this build, you want to have at least 70 melee, but you kind of want to stack melee as high as you can. So I have 160 melee, and I have a plus 20 melee stat font on my gauntlets. So I pretty much have 180 melee at all times, which is a huge damage bonus. Highly recommend getting your melee stat as high as you can. You don't need health very high because your combination blow is going to be healing you. You don't need health very high because you're also going to be picking up orbs and healing from that. You don't need grenade very high because this is mainly just going to be spamming class ability and melee. You get your grenade back from the bomber class item mod. So pretty much everything is covered. Just go melee and then class. So melee needs to be as high as you can get it. You get class to 70 at least. If you want higher, whatever, that's fine. Yeah, I think you just get overshield for activating it. You don't really need that because you're going to be full health from combination blow. Then get super pretty high and get weapons pretty high. Weapons is great because you can generate more ammo the higher weapon stat you have. So I go 160 melee, 100 super, 100 weapons, 70 class. The rest doesn't matter. For combination blow, every time you get a melee kill, you get 1 stack of combination blow. It stacks up to 3 times and it lasts for 20 seconds. So at 3 stacks, you get 400% increased melee damage. This applies to the Tempest Strike. So Tempest Strike gets that 400% increased melee damage. So this is additive melee damage, which will come into play later. I'll explain that in a few minutes. Outside of the melee damage, you get healing for final blows. When you get a final blow with combination blow, not only do you get healing and melee damage. You also get your class ability back. You get your entire class ability back if you have at least 70 class stat. One of the strongest fragments on the Arc Strider subclass is Spark of Resistance. When you're surrounded by combatants, you're more resistant to incoming damage. This should always be on your Arc Hunter builds, on any Arc build, especially ones where you need to get in melee range. This is perfect. Never forget this on your builds. The next one, Spark of Beacons. This is kind of flexible if you have an Arc Special weapon or heavy weapon. This is great because you're going to be always amplified, and this is a great way to blind enemies. This is an unstop stun if you need it. You also have overload stuns by jolting targets with your abilities and Gifted Conviction, but this is a great unstop stun. So if you need this, this is here. The suggestion that I would have to replace this would probably be Spark of Feedback, which is more melee damage whenever you receive melee damage. But Beacons is just great. Like, there's no reason to not use this. It's great. You could also run Spark of Shock to have your arc grenades jolt targets, but Beacons is just really good. If you need it in a pinch, it's there, and it doesn't cost you anything. There's no stat bonus or deficit. It's just good arc fragment. Next up, Spark of Amplitude. Rapidly defeating targets while you're amplified creates an orb of power. You'll see this in the gameplay that I played at the beginning of the video. I'm generating a lot of orbs, not only from heavy-handed, I'm also generating orbs from Spark of Amplitude. So every time I get a multi-kill, I generate 2 orbs. Spark of Ions, you're jolting a lot of targets with Gifted Conviction, and you're defeating those targets, so you're going to get Ionic Traces. This will come into play later. Ionic Traces are great. Also, Spark of Frequency. While you're amplified, you get extra stacks of Bolt Charge. Tempest Strike gives you stacks of Bolt Charge for defeating jolted targets. You're jolting targets with Gifted Conviction, so pretty much every target that you defeat is giving you a stack of Bolt Charge, and you're getting double those stacks by having Spark of Frequency, and you're amplified from Ascension. So all of these 3 all work together to give you 2 stacks of Bolt Charge every time you defeat an enemy. Great combination. Highly recommend. The super doesn't matter too much. You can use any of the 3. I just choose Arc Staff because why not? It's pretty good overall. It's been strong recently. Now for the weapons. Bastion. I highly recommend Bastion, not only this season because of kinetic synthesis. This weapon has practically infinite ammo. It's pretty much a primary weapon. But it also gives you a 300% melee damage bonus, which is additive with that 400% from combination blow times 3. So that's a 700% damage bonus to your base melee. This is a lot of extra damage to your Tempest Strike. So highly recommend using Bastion. You can also use Perfect Paradox or any other 1-2 punch shotgun. 1-2 punch gives you 150% damage bonus. So that would be a 450% damage bonus on top of whatever damage bonuses or debuffs and stuff are on the enemy you're fighting. But 1-2 punch is 150% additive with that 300% from combination blow times 3. I've got Uncivil Discourse on. It's a great energy weapon from this season. Highly recommend using it. This is here as my special weapon that will blind targets when I defeat them if they're while I'm amplified. Let's go over the armor mods real quick. So on my helmet, I just have a super font. This is honestly just because I couldn't think of anything else to put on my helmet. Gives me 120 super, makes my super do a little bit more damage. It's a plus 20 to my 100 super stat that I have down here. Hands-on gives me more super energy on melee kills. Kinetic Siphon, just because I had 2 spots left, and if I get a multi-kill with Bastion, I get an orb. Not much more than that. 2 heavy-handed mods and 1 melee font. So the 2 heavy-handed mods, every 5 seconds, I am able to generate an orb from a powered melee final blow. And then the melee font will just use those orbs that I create to give me plus 20 melee stats. So I go from 160 to 180. I just have some random resistances and melee damage resist. On my boots, I have Better Already, an Arc Scavenger for my hand cannon, and Elemental Charge. Elemental Charge will give me armor charge every time I pick up an Ionic Trace. So every time I defeat a jolted target, I will create an ionic trace, which will track to me and give me armor charge. So I will have permanent armor charge for my super and my melee fonts. I also have powerful attraction, which not only gives me armor charge, but triggers better already every time I pick up an orb. I'm going to be generating orbs whenever I am defeating targets while amplified. And better already will start health generation. Recuperation recently got nerfed, so better already is a very good option. Highly recommend running better already this season. And then time dilation will be there just to make these two fonts run slower. And then bomber is there because I have a very low grenade stat, but every time I dodge or use ascension, I will trigger bomber, which will give me grenade energy. For those of you that don't know, ascension is tied to your air move ability. So if you don't know what that ability is, go to your keyboard and mouse or controller settings and find whatever is bound to air move, and that is how you trigger ascension. You need to be in the air to activate this. Here's an example of ascension. I jump and press X. And then for Tempest Strike, what you need to do is sprint, slide, and then melee. So sprint, slide, melee. And as you can see, it gave me my ascension back. And then I have Tempest Strike. And then I have ascension. And then I have Tempest Strike. And then I have ascension. And that's pretty much the gameplay loop. As you can see, I have combination blow ×3. I can pretty much one-shot any enemy. Let's see on these guys. Ascension. This is on master difficulty, by the way, which is -20. Just in case anybody asks about the fashion, this is what I am running for fashion. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you for watching. If you learned anything, please leave a sub, like, and comment. I appreciate all feedback. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.